Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Malcriada Thoughts with your host, Sadra Knives. I have a very special guest for you guys today. But before we get into that, how did you guys like that last episode? Did we like it? Did we not like it? What do you guys think? Let me know. I had a lot of fun making it, especially the intro and the concept, because, yeah, I think we've been used to one way of learning about the world and women and how our relationships work. Sometimes we need to put it into another random weird ass perspective to understand. And that was my attempt. I think the metaphor worked well though. Yes? All right. But today I have something different for you guys. I collabed with the podcast host of the Descent podcast and just interviewing him, picking his brain, learning about his journey as a creative, as a Latina creative, and yeah. The next episode will be doing a review of the movie that caught my eye on his page. So, without further ado, interview with Mikey Peralta Jr.
Right.
Hang on, let me get the face.
All right, yeah, we
And then
gotta
I'm getting the
get
face.
into
I'm
the
getting the face.
podcast mode.
Yeah, getting the
There
punch.
you go.
Okay. Just wanted to show you the face before I put on my glasses, y'all. What's up, you guys? Yes, we're back with another episode of Malcriada Thoughts with your host, Saja Knives, with a very, very special guest, Mikey Peralta.
Hello, hello.
Did I say that?
Happy to be here.
'Cause I know you as Mikey P. Jr. on
Yeah,
TikTok.
yeah. I
And
did start off as Mikey P Jr., but now I just do the whole name Mikey Peralta because they started one of the publishers I write for like wrote it out and I was like, fuck, attention to that. So I'm just gonna stick to that now.
no, it's powerful. It's powerful. Lean into that. Like
Mm-hmm.
using Latinas using our full names. No
Mm-hmm.
apologies. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Guys, I'm so excited for this episode. It's been long, long time coming. I've been stalling, I've been procrastinating. Shit happens. It's okay. But we're here. We are here.
That's all that matters.
Okay. Mikey, can you talk to my audience, my Malcriadas? Tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm gonna give you my little bio in the beginning, but I want to
Mm.
hear from your voice.
Yeah, yeah, of course. So I am Mikey Peralta Jr. I am a Mexican American creator from Southern California who like to highlight like Latin American and like POC cinema with an emphasis on the horror genre. And by creator, like I kind of mean like I'm currently like I'm doing a lot of stuff actually, a little too much sometimes I feel like it is. But I am like releasing videos on my TikTok and Instagram, and like I have a column with Red Central called Horror en Español, and I have, I believe, 2 seasons out on a podcast called The Descent, where my co-host John and we talk about specifically foreign horror films. And lately, I've been appearing on a couple of podcast shows, such as this one, which I am excited to be here, by the way.
Yay, I'm so excited that you're here as well. All right. So, first, we're going to do a little intro. We're going to get to know each other. We're going to introduce, tell us about your journey as a creator, as of the identities that you have intersecting, because that's what this podcast is about. The Marcada
Hmm.
podcast is a social justice podcast based in RGB, or because I'm originally from the RGB.
Hmm.
Puro pinche FF6. And and we're just here to celebrate you as a being, as a Latina, as a masculine presence here. And I'm just so excited. All right. So let's get into it.
All right.
All right. So you already kind of told us a little bit about yourself. You told us what you do and what you dedicate your time to, which is a lot of creative, I would say, a lot of creative
Hmm.
energy.
Definitely.
So what led you to create the art and content that you publish?
So all of this kind of started like back in 2020, like legit a month before like COVID hit, like I swear.
Mm.
So I remember going to Mexico. It was in January. And I was I went to the El Mercado with my mom, and I was just walking down the aisles and stuff, and then I see this wrestling like vendor, and there had like just a bunch of luchador masks, and there was one other Santo, and I kind of just like naturally like gravitated towards it. I didn't know who he was at the time. And then my mom kind of goes up to me and she was like, he used to beat up Dracula and Frankenstein. I was like, what? Like, no
What?
way. Yeah. And I was like, nah, what? She's like, yeah, like, she kind of gave me like this little rundown on like, just like who he is and like his films. So naturally, like as a huge horror lover, like when we went back to my Theo's house, I went straight to YouTube and tried to see if I can find his stuff. And luckily he had like, there's like 10 films you can find online. And I started watching them and I was just like, oh, like, this is fucking amazing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and then basically that's kind of how I started getting into like Latin American films. But there is another film that I watched a couple months afterwards. I was already back here and I was doing a night job, and then I was just like awake at 3 in the morning. So I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna watch a movie. And then so I just threw on a random like Mexican horror film called Alucarda, which is right now like one of my all-time favorite films now. Just because like this film completely caught me off guard so much. Like it's so like thematically dense, but at the same time like it's just batshit crazy. Like it's just like it has so much like blasphemous imagery. And like
We
ever since
love
then I
that.
was like, yeah, I was like, how are people not talking about this? Like why is there like nothing? You know what I mean? Like there was nothing there. So I was like, nah, like something has to happen here because like people have to know about these films. So that's essentially how I got into watching Latin American horror films. And from there, I was like, well, there's a void here. You know what I mean? If no one's gonna do it, I'm gonna have to. And here I am 4 years later.
And we love that for you. I love that for you.
Thank you, thank you.
That's so crazy that you mentioned it because I was literally looking at your podcast cover, like the cover art for it a little bit
Hmm.
ago, and I was just like, "Oh my God, there's a little wolf in the background," and da
Hmm.
da da da. And then you have two luchador masks heads, which
Hmm.
I'm sure it's you and your co-host.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I wonder where the story came from. So I'm so happy that I was able to get the juicy
Hmm.
details behind that. And I love it. I love it because you tell your story in it, and that's so cute. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that for
Thank
you.
you.
All right. Okay. The next question I have for you is, what is your favorite part of talking and writing about POC/Indigenous horror specifically?
It's easily their themes, like without a doubt. Like so, like a niche that I like really focused in with themes. So like Latin American horror films and like POC and indigenous horror films are already like a niche in their own. But then I try to like find even more like within a bigger like niche. I guess I'm gonna say that word a lot now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I really like focusing on films on how they depict colonization because like we're still feeling the effects centuries later, and like a lot of these films focus a lot on that. And like it's 2024 and like there's still a lot of films coming out. Like there's just one that was recently released called Sorcery, which is from Chile, and it basically like it depicts this like indigenous girl who's a bruja, and she's like getting revenge on German settlers who killed her dad. So like you have stories like that, but then you also have like Blood Quantum, which again another one of my like all-time favorite films. I believe was released 2019, 2020. And in that film, like it's about a zombie virus that only affects people who don't have native blood. So you can like already imagine like just all the anger, the confusion, and like just so many like pent up emotions in that film. And they're just great films like on their own. Like just you know what I mean? Like if we're talking about like films without their like really digging into the themes, like they're just really good horror films. Then you really dig into the stuff and you're just like, wow, like it's really insane, like how these films are just they're just out there talking about this stuff, and that's why I like it. These themes are great.
Thank you so much for that answer. We
Yeah.
appreciate you. And the way the when you mentioned the Blood Quantum movie, I
Hmm.
remember seeing that on your page. So even like that word, those wordings, the Blood Quantum is just like,
Exactly. There's
oh,
so much like
there's so much there.
exactly, and like that film is so like it's just like Alucarda, just like a lot of these films are just so dense in their themes and the way
Mhm.
how they present them, like I don't know, it just like I love that you can really feel the emotions in this stuff. Like they're very angry and they're very pissed off, like as they should be, and they let it rip, and it's fucking amazing.
I love that you said that. You said they're pissed off as they should be.
Yeah.
Because a little here since we're getting to know each other, right? This is a
Hmm.
collab. We're getting to know each other. I'm interviewing
Hmm.
you, but I also want to share a little bit about myself
Yeah,
about
of
the
course, of course.
podcast. Obviously, because it kind of intertwines with
Hmm.
this. They're pissed as they should be.
Yeah.
So malcriada. Where did malcriada come from? What is malcriada? Why do you call yourself malcriada? You know what it means. It means wrongly raised girl,
Hmm.
badly raised girl, because it ends in the a, in the feminine. And the reason I identify with this is because anger for women, for
Hmm.
femmes, it's just not allowed. You're not allowed to be angry. That's not an emotion that is reserved for you.
Hmm.
And when you look into a lot of the indigenous and horror films and POC horror films that like you have brought up, and one that we're going to talk about, but that's
Yeah.
later. That's later. There's so much rage and pent
Exactly.
up anger in the femmes,
Hmm.
in the indigenous femmes specifically. And the fact that we're told not to feel that we don't have an entitlement to that anger, that indignation, that is where I'm like, fuck that. This Malcriada space, this podcast, this is the space for it. We get to be angry no matter who it pisses off. Because like literally at the beginning of this podcast, I was really scared to scare away like potential allies.
Hmm.
And it's like, oh, I don't want to be that angry Latina
Hmm.
that like she's just
Now you
crazy
do
or
it.
whatever. Dude, like it's
Do it.
hard.
Be
It's super
unapologetically yourself. Do it.
yes.
Do it.
Yes. That's my message for everyone listening, especially to the youth listening, because I'm 23. I'm barely starting to get into this mindset, and I wish I had
Hmm.
this mindset when I wish I had this mindset when I was little, you know?
Yeah,
I wish I
of
had this
course.
mindset when I was little. Imagine all the other more things I could have discovered slash created.
Hmm.
Not to get hung up on it, right? Just to be
Hmm.
like, oh, imagine what would have that been like? We'll
No,
see.
I get it. Like and like it wasn't even a thing back then too. That's the crazy thing. Because like, so I'm 30, so like there's like a kind of big gap there. But like growing up too, like it's just you didn't really like growing up. There was like gender roles were a fucking thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like they're like our like my parents, and I imagine your parents are just were very like strict with that. Especially considering we're first gen, so like our parents come from a Latin country that are just like have these mentalities like instilled in them.
Mhm.
So it's so yeah, I get
But
it.
here we are creating a new path for the kiddos,
Exactly.
our kiddos, the future kiddos of the newest generations. And here we
Exactly.
are making their paths. We got them. All right.
Yeah.
Next question for you. So, what is your, oh wait, I already told you what was your favorite part. Could you
Mhm.
answer what is the most challenging part of this, of the work that
Yeah,
you
of
do?
course. So I would say that the challenging, in a way, it's also kind of rewarding for me because like, so for me, it would be like that I'm really able to dig into these countries and really just learn about their history, learn about how how they work, you know what I mean? But, and like, so when I say that it's challenging to learn about these countries, I'm not necessarily talking about like the studying aspect, but it's more in the way like how like fucked up these countries have gotten through like U.S. intervention, the Spanish, the Portuguese conquest, and just like imperialism, capitalism, just like how all these like quote unquote factors have shaped like the country, you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
they've instilled like these oppressive systems and like so it's really it takes a toll on me like having to read all this consistently, you know what I mean? And like so like to give you guys an example, like I watched this documentary, it is an extreme documentary, so just do be wary of that. But it's called Orozco the Embalmer, and this is a Mondo film, which basically means that these are like documentaries that cover like very taboo subject matter, and like they depict like real cases of like death and just like it's some pretty harsh shit. And this one, Orozco, covers this very violent time in Colombia, which is in the 90s, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of just show you like the daily rituals of this man Orozco. Who's an embalmer, and it really goes into some very heavy shit because it kind of talks about, well, they don't talk about this in the documentary, but I had to like look it up, and like it talks about this. There's this event called like, what is it, Bogotazo, which was like this massive riot that basically destroyed part of the capital city because and this was like due to an assassination of a political leader, and like it was like the start of the Cold War, so just like a lot of this like politically like charged stuff going on at the time, And I remember, so basically after I watched this, I wrote out an article for Dread Central, and it got to the point where I had to ask my editor. I was like, "Hey, can you like look over this and make sure I'm not like, I don't know, I felt not necessarily weird, but I was like, man, like it was just really, it was taking a toll on me, you know what I mean?" And eventually the editor read it. She's like, "No, this is a good piece, and I do believe like it should be out there because it is an important piece of like Colombian history, no matter how hard it is to like read it and like no matter how hard it was, you know what I mean? Like it's an important thing that should be out there." So yeah, we went ahead with it, and it's out right now. It's through Jet Central. But yeah, just reading stuff like that can really take a toll on you, and like again, like since I focus on colonization, like you start reading about like I've come across some like great figures, like I believe his name was, can't remember his name completely. It's like Hadouay or something like that, and he was this indigenous chief who was burned alive, but like he damn, can't remember the exact story. Hold on.
Mhm.
He essentially said something like really impactful, where it's like, let me look it up because I don't want to give you guys
I
the
got
wrong
you.
thing.
We love fact checking here.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So essentially, there's this Taino chief
Mm.
who was tied up, and the Spaniards asked him like, essentially like, do you want to accept Jesus and go to heaven, like right before he was martyred? And he says like, are there people like you in heaven? And he asked like, and then the Spaniard responds with like, there are many like me in heaven, answered the priest. And Hadaway answered that he wanted nothing to do with a God that would allow such cruelty to be unleashed in his name. And he was martyred after that. So it's like reading stuff like this, like, it affects you because you see like just like very the horrendous shit that's happened during this time, and it's still going on. And like again, like just kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier, how we're still seeing the effects of shit like this now.
Hmm. Jesus, oh my God. Yeah,
Yeah,
I can see how consuming and constantly researching for new content and stories and articles to write can be very, at times, I want to say, I don't like it could be triggering,
yeah,
and
big
it could
time.
activate, I like to say activate because the word has been tainted by internet. I would say like people we are parts of us can be activated that we didn't know could be. And
Exactly.
but at the same time, like you said, it's challenging, but at the same time rewarding because knowledge, that's the price of
Yeah,
knowledge, right?
exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Well, thank you for sharing that with me. And
Yeah, of course.
I see that. I really do.
Hmm.
Um, the next question I have for you is, what is your number one advice for the Latina youth who may have an interest in film or anything creative or a non-traditional career path? What would you say? I like to think if you had a mega, I like to tell my guests if you had a megaphone and just
Hmm.
shout it to all the kids who are doubting themselves or like, what would
Then
you?
it's gonna sound very cliche and short and sweet, but like believing yourself, like it's as simple as that. Like especially when it comes to the creative field, like it's so easy to get discouraged, like in this line of work. You know what I mean? Especially when you're starting off, like you have nothing. You know what I mean? Like it's literally just you, yourself, your ideas, your work, and like no one's gonna believe you in the beginning. So you have to like really just really believe in yourself that like you know what you're talking about. You know what you know that your work is important because in the end, like there's only one you. So like believe in yourself because your shit is your stuff does matter. You know what I mean? And like so like to kind of like give you guys an example too, when I was first starting off back in, so I started watching these films 2020, and then after like 6 months of like just going hard on like watching all these films, I started pitching articles to a bunch of websites, and up to this point, I have not written anything like that, you know?
Hmm.
So I was getting rejected all the time when it came to my pitches. And like it kind of makes sense because like in the beginning, again, this is 2020, like no one was really talking about Latin American horror films, you know what I mean? Like so I completely understand why I would imagine people were hesitant on releasing work like this.
Hmm.
Is because we didn't have films like Tigers Are Not Afraid. We didn't have With That The Wolf House, Terrified, When Evil Lurks, like these huge films that were just like that the horror community now loves, you know what I mean? But they weren't out yet, so like there was not really much to really get people to be like, oh, like Latin American horror is a thing, you know what I mean? So like I would say just yeah, like so just to go back, like believing in yourself, and the same just kind of goes with content creation, like just keep posting, like make your videos, do your writing, do whatever you feel like you need to put out there. You know what I mean? Like if there's something you wish you could see, do it. You know what I mean? That's just you got to do it, and eventually you will build a community like what you're doing here. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like we all start somewhere. You know what I mean? Like none of us really, like a lot of us, the majority of us don't start with a lot. You know what I mean? So we got to
Hmm.
find our community. But when we do, like it's so rewarding too. Like because you make these kind of connections and stuff.
Yes. Yes, I love that answer. Just believing yourself because
Exactly.
sometimes, sometimes there's people that don't have anyone who believes in them. Like don't have
Exactly.
any outer validation, especially in our
Exactly.
communities. And especially in these times, we're so individualized and we're so isolated from each other. And
Mm-hmm.
we're just be like, oh, I don't need nobody else. I just need myself. I'm super independent. Regardless of gender, regardless of
Mm-hmm.
identity, I think everyone is to a lot of people are pushing that idea forward and it's
It's a
we're
very
kind of
American thing. Well, like USA
yes,
thing. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like that
very much so.
individualism, and it's like, nah, dude, we need that community, and
Hmm.
like I am grateful with the people who have given me the open, like giving me a chance when I first started off, and like we wouldn't be like this like tight knot, even not tight knot, but like you know what I mean? Like we wouldn't be like in this
Homies.
community,
Hmm.
essentially, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, just yeah.
All right. I love that you mentioned that you're a father, so I'm so happy that I
Mhm.
get to ask you this question to you. What is your number one advice to the parents of said youth?
Let's see. So as a parent now, and growing up with like always wanted to do something creative since I was like it's just being creative has always been in my soul, and my thing is just support your kids no matter what. It's as simple as that, you know what I mean? Like I didn't get much support from my parents growing up outside of them like buying me my first bass when I was like 13. So like I am truly grateful, they did that for me.
Mm.
But like outside of that, they never really cared about what I was doing with music. And like for me, like music led me to do different kinds of writing because I would write my music, but then it led to my writing that I'm doing now. You know what I mean? It was kind of like a pipeline, but in the end, like this all started. It's um, essentially what I'm trying to say, like, is that like being in the creative field, like it would be nice to get that support from your parents. I was playing music for about a decade, and I was playing it fairly seriously, and I didn't really get any support from my parents. And up to this point, like I don't get it now either. But it's like whatever. Now I don't need it now. But but you know what I mean? Like that's something that I'm for sure gonna do with my kids. Is like I'm gonna support them 100% in anything that they want to do. You know what I mean? Like I will be there. I will be there buying them books and like whatever. Like you know what I mean? Like if there's something they
Yes.
want to follow, fucking go for it. Cause like
And if it doesn't work out, it's okay.
that's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Hmm.
Like after like again like after 10 years, I had to stop playing music because the writing ended up overtaking my life in a good way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But yeah, like sometimes you start off doing something and it leads you to another like path in your life that you would have never even imagined. You know what I mean? Like I honestly, I would have never saw myself writing about horror films when I was like growing up. Like it's just crazy how all that works. But yeah, just support your kids.
Hell yeah. You heard it here. Support your kids so they don't turn out like little malcriadas.
There.
Or, well, I'm taking
Well,
back that. I'm taking
yeah, I
that
was like,
back.
well, you kind of want them to, but like,
Because we are all malcriados. We were all raised and
exactly,
not we were raised to aspire to that American dream, to that ideal
exactly.
individualized thing. I'm rejecting that. We're malcriados, and because what? We keep coming back to the roots. Our roots keep
Mm-hmm.
calling us back.
You
No
do.
matter what route we try to chase, our roots keep calling us back. And hey, maybe this is what our roots are calling you. Like, yeah, that beautiful music is beautiful. But you can play
Mm-hmm.
music anytime.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Writing, how do you say what you're doing, writing about horror, and not just any horror, not just American horror, it's indigenous horror, it's POC
Mm-hmm.
horror, horror of reality. And
Exactly.
I think that has so much depth. And again, I'm just so grateful that you had to go through anything that you went through to end up here, and I love that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
All right. And last question. If anyone is interested in checking out your work, where can they find you?
All right. So I do have a small little like website called Descent into Horror, and then it's like descentintohorror.wordpress, I believe, .com. So I have basically everything there. Like I have my writing portfolio, I have all like my podcast stuff. I do sell bandanas on Etsy, so that's on there too. And then just my TikTok and stuff. But if you guys wanted to find me like through my social media accounts, it is at Mikey Peralta Jr. They're all the same. And I do have a link tree on like my bio that again leads you to everything else there. So take your pick between the
And,
website or social media.
and everything will be linked in the footnotes, so don't even worry
Perfect.
about it. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you. And we're not done. We're going to do another collab soon, and it's going to be probably the next episode. So catch us there. All right. This has been your host, Sadria Knives, and
Mikey Peralta Jr.
signing off.
All right.
Yeah.